To see the fully uncut version of this video, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons.
What's that like to live deliciously? Chaos reigns.
Please don't scream.
Nah, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
What's happening? My name is Jonjo Lyons, and today I'm here to present to you my review for Murder Set Pieces. Written and directed by Nick Palumbo, Murder Set Pieces starts... What's the point in anything? A fashion photographer exposes his demented childhood and zooms his evil lens on the oldest profession under the moon in quite possibly the most notorious serial killer film ever made. When looking into the world of extreme horror, there are a few titles that come up time and time again. Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, The Human Centipede, and Irreversible, which, by the way, turned out to be a really easy and stress-free movie for me to review. On an unrelated note, Studio Canal and every that knows them. No exaggeration, literally 2 minutes before I started recording, I got an email saying that the new video had been blocked worldwide again. So if you're wondering why you can't see the last review, that's why. It's still on Patreon though, and there's nothing they can do about it. Anyway, another movie that I hear people talking about a lot is Murder Set Pieces. A ridiculous, mind-bogglingly bad movie that might be one of the most violent and reprehensible pieces of extreme cinema that I've ever seen. I'm not playing here, people. I was tempted to put a warning at the beginning of the video because of the content that we're about to cover. Nick Palumbo really goes above and beyond here, making sure that his film leaves a mark on the genre. And in doing so, while certainly giving us some images that we'll never forget, also manages to make a film so bad that in some ways it rivals The Room. Oh, and in regard to Nick, let's get it out the way. Yes, the YouTube viewers are going to be seeing a lot of him in this one. You're definitely going to want to consider going to Patreon and seeing this one completely uncut. The gore effects in this film are so grotesque that it would immediately get an age restriction, so unfortunately Nick is a necessary evil. And you better believe after last week's bullshit, I'm not going through any madness again. You can see the uncut version at patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons for as little as $1 a month or more if you're feeling generous this holiday season. We'll still be covering the story in its entirety, and I will try to show as much as I can, but I just wanted to get ahead of any moaning. There's been a bit of that in the comments recently, and well, patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. This is the reality that we live in, and I submit to the YouTube gods who without I would have nothing. Amen. Anyway, things are about to get very, very bloody, so let's not waste any more time. Get ready to see what would happen if Tommy Wiseau made a slasher movie. This is Murder Set Pieces. The film begins with this quote, widely believed to be written by Jack the Ripper, that reads, "The Jews are not the men to be blamed for nothing." Cut to footage of 9/11, for no other reason than it's creepy, I guess. I might be speaking out of turn here, but I think using footage from a real-life tragedy to elicit an emotional response in the audience that in the end only really amounts to a bit creepy is kind of gross. It won't be the worst thing that he does in this film by far, but we're off to a bad start. We then hear someone say this rhyme.
Just you wait a little while, the nasty man in black will come. With this little chopper, he'll chop you up. You're dead, dead, dead.
Cut to the opening credits and then to a blood-soaked room as the camera flashes pop. At the center is a woman bound to a chair in a really bad state. The man continues to take pictures as we get close-ups of the woman's various and severe injuries. The photographer then stands over her speaking German as we see signs that the woman is somehow still alive.
Sag mir, was du fühlst.
Cut to the title card and then to two girls, Jade and Megan, as they run away from school, and then to this car speeding. Cut back to the girls as they talk about ditching school. Megan brings up Jade's sister's boyfriend, asking what he's like, and Jade says she doesn't know, but he's not from around here. She then sees he's there, and the girls run up to the car as we see he is the photographer. Cut to them driving as the friend says cool car, to which the photographer responds I know, before asking where he's dropping her off. They pull up here, drop Megan off, and the girls say goodbye to one another. Back in the car, the photographer asks Jade how her first day at school was and if she liked her teacher, getting a snarky response back. He then asks what her favourite subject is, and she says history, which he approves of as it's also his. Jade then asks why he likes to take pictures.
Because pictures never lie.
What does that mean?
The frame of a 35mm camera is alive. It lasts forever. Unlike people.
He asks her what happens when you die, and she says you rot away. He then tells her to remind him to take her picture sometime.
Why? You never take pictures of my sister.
Don't worry. I will.
Tell you what, mate, can we just stick on the radio, yeah? Cut to a hair salon as Jade enters and greets her sister, Charlotte. Charlotte asks Jade where her ride is, and she says parking up out front as we cut out there to see the photographer step out of the car. He enters and tells Charlotte that he was just asking Jade about school.
You gotta be more careful, little girl.
Is she complaining?
Okay. Is no one gonna... No? Alright then. The sister says they can discuss it over dinner, but the photographer says he can't tonight as he has to shoot some girls. The sister asks if they're pretty, and he says of course they're pretty. She then asks if they're as pretty as her, and he says never as pretty as her. Cut to some sweaty weightlifting, and then to two naked ladies having some kisses. The photographer gets involved for a bit before pulling a straight razor out of his pocket and using it to slash the first girl's throat. He then turns to the second girl who hasn't noticed and starts rubbing on her when she puts her hand in a pool of blood. Cut to girl 2 waking up tied to a chair. Cut to Jade and Charlotte in the car. Jade's complaining about the photographer, saying he's no fun and looks at her weird. She thinks her sister could do better, but she says she doesn't want to talk about this now. Jade says he doesn't love her, and the sister asks them why did he give her a key to his house. Jade replies it's probably fake and says she just has a really bad feeling.
I am from Germany, and I wear tight pants, and I think I'm so cool because I take pictures of naked girls with my stupid camera.
You're racist. They arrive at the house and we cut to the trio having dinner. The photographer asks Jade how school was and she says there's no school on Saturday.
Forgive me, I've been caught up in my work lately.
It's alright.
Do you see what I mean about the Tommy Wiseau acting here? It's actually kind of wonderful. Jade asks if he always eats his meat that bloody, and he says yes, blood is good, it's good for you. He then says that it's ironic that women suck blood out of men every day, but at the end of the month it leaks out, calling it punishment.
So what's some ice cream tonight?
Sounds great.
Fucking ice cream, you weird c***. And the sister's just fine with this behaviour. Good lord. Jade says she needs to use the bathroom, at first looking as if she's going down this hallway before going upstairs. She looks at pictures of naked ladies on the walls, then goes to the photographer's bedroom where she finds the straight razor and a picture of Hitler. She's found by the photographer, who takes the picture from her and explains that this is his history. The man with Hitler was his grandfather. He calls him a hero and says he fought the bad guys in the Second World War.
Yeah. But wasn't he German?
Cut to the photographer driving. He then takes a walk down the strip set to this funky horror music. Cut to this woman playing the slots when the photographer presses it and wins big. The woman calls him a lucky one, and we cut to a photo shoot montage. Cut to the photographer entering this room and asking the woman her name. She reminds him it's Andrea, and he starts taking pictures, calling her beautiful. It looks like he's starting to have some trouble when Andrea asks if he's okay. He says he'll be right back, and outside the room we see his nose is now bleeding. He pulls the straight razor out, and we cut to the party room as the flashbulb goes off and we're shown various masks and rotting body parts. Mom, you're here for Christmas! We see his cameras, tools, a collage, and 3 sets of teeth before returning to him lifting weights. Cut back to the train tracks as the boy is approached by this woman. Cut to Jade and Megan as she tells her about the whole Nazi thing as a little distance away the photographer takes pictures of them. Apparently Charlotte said that Jade was exaggerating and she doesn't know what to do, saying she just doesn't see him going away. Cut to the photographer driving at night and then to him telling this woman to take her clothes off. He then grabs her, takes her to the bathroom and starts dunking her in the water while cursing her out in German before finally slashing her throat. tell you what, that's gonna be a nightmare to clean up. Cut to him pumping weights once more and then to him pulling up to this house. There he meets this fella who tells him he's late.
You don't have a daughter, do you?
I don't think so.
Can't everybody be as lucky as me? Or as pretty?
The man is played by Gunnar Hansen, who you might remember as the original Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first of a few notable horror cameos in this movie. They head inside and the photographer sits on the sofa under a huge Nazi flag when we see flashes of him covered in blood and a woman laying face down in the Las Vegas desert. The mechanic then invites the photographer to the bedroom and inside he finds a gun on the bed which he loads. The mechanic says it was made in-house German and the photographer says Germany will rise again before paying the man $500. As he goes to leave, the mechanic offers his own daughter's services, but the photographer says he has to shoot some girls tonight.
I gotta shoot some girls tonight.
I bet you do.
Cut to him pulling up here and walking into a strip club where he gets a private dance from this lady. We also fully get to see her butthole in this scene. It does nothing to serve the narrative or move the story forward, but it's the first time that I can remember ever seeing a butthole in a proper film, apart from Anne Heche's butthole in the remake of Psycho. R.I.P. As this fine young woman is dancing on him, the photographer looks around, eventually settling on this girl. We then cut to him and beating her, which isn't very Christmassy. He then finishes and walks into the bathroom to take a dump. Cut to him ranting at the girl who's now covered in blood.
The whole f***ing world is going up in flames. And you are the biggest part of the problem.
He tells her to relax as she'll be in hell soon enough and puts the knife to her face, licking the blood off her. Cut to a bunch of child drawings of women being murdered on the floor and then to the train track boy as he cuts a doll's clothes off, dropping her to the ground. Cut to the photographer getting head from, you guessed it, a severed head. He then drops the head out the window and calls her a pig before speeding off. Cut back to the party room as the photographer eats a woman's rotted torso. Then to him pulling up at this adult entertainment store. Cut inside where we meet the store clerk. Oh shit, that's Tony Todd. As you can imagine, almost the entire store is covered in naked ladies and sex aids, so for the YouTube viewers, I'm gonna have to get a bit creative here. Patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. The clerk moans about needing a new job before offering the photographer a bunch of items. The photographer then asks the clerk for a snuff film called The Nutbag. Nutbag being the title of Nick Palumbo's original feature film. I'm blatantly gonna end up covering that, aren't I? The clerk tries to offer him other stuff, but eventually loses his temper and tries to kick the photographer out. He then grabs the clerk and is about to slice him when these two burst in to hold the place up.
Alright, watch that motherfucker right there!
Oh shit! That's Fred Vogel, creator and star of the August Underground series. They shoot the place up as Fred goes to the clerk for the cash. While he's distracted, the photographer slashes his mate's face open and then guns Fred down.
Wait a minute!
The clerk celebrates and offers the photographer anything he wants in the store when he says this.
In my mind's eye, I light fires in your cities.
No.
Oh. Never mind then. It's alright, just say his name 5 times and he'll come back. The photographer then swings his gun over at this girl. Oh shit. That's Christy Wiles, who plays Krusty in the August Underground series. Another character who has the express permission to f*** you to death. After she's done f***ing her brother and sucking severed penises. Those movies are wild, man. The photographer then leaves and we cut to him in the dark room looking at various pictures of the women he's killed. He grabs a camera and we cut to the boy on the tracks looking at this woman. Hard cut to the photographer rapping another woman in his party room and shouting at her in German. She then goes quiet and we see her throat has been slashed. Although we don't see him actually slash her throat. I reckon here they probably did shoot it, but the effect looked so they had to scrap it. She's just screaming and then all of a sudden her throat's open. Cut to this doll's face as the sound of the photographer finishing in the dead body can be heard. We pull out, lol, to see this is the same doll as the little boy was playing with. Meaning the little boy is the photographer, just in case any of you haven't got there yet. Cut to the photographer taking pictures of these two and then to him driving once more before cutting back to the party room where he hammers a nail into this woman's hand. He then puts a noose around her neck and tells her to relax. He opens his freezer, staring into the blood within, and says he needs to fill it up. He then puts a pig mask on this woman who's hanging upside down, ties a rope around her neck, and then tells her not to go anywhere. He approaches his collage and draws out a Nazi medal, which he holds up to the prisoners and screams at them in German. He then puts it away and draws for his biting teeth before snapping a pic for the gram. He pops in his teeth, licks his lips, and approaches his victim. Cut to Jade and Megan as they discuss meeting up tonight. She can't as her sister is really upset and doesn't want to leave her alone. Megan asks why she can't forget about him, and Jade says because he won't go away, as we cut to the photographer sitting in his car watching. Cut to him walking down an empty street as the echoing voice of a child can be heard telling someone to stop. He then spots a bunch of kids running on the way to trick-or-treat and watches them. They pass him as he hears a girl's voice ask him to kill her. He then stops and looks up at a stop sign. It's a metaphor for what you should do before spending your entire week making a detailed review video about this movie. Cut to Jade and Charlotte. She tells her sister she saw the photographer. Charlotte ain't having any of it, telling her she can't deal with her bullshit and that she got what she wanted as the photographer left her. She storms out as Jade shouts she's scared of him, and then we cut to a playground where her dad is pushing his daughters on the swings. One of the girls says she needs to go to the bathroom and heads inside. She goes to wash her hands when the photographer exits one of the cubicles with a butcher knife and approaches her. He then grabs the girl and stabs her all the way to death. Jesus fucking Christ. Never seen that in a movie before. Too much? I know in a previous video I said that there's no such thing as too much in extreme cinema, but this is fucking getting there. He then drops her on the floor dead, and we cut to him doing push-ups to a Hitler speech as we see two more dead bodies of young girls. Cut to the desert as we see a shot of that naked woman once again, and then to the basement as the photographer butchers another woman. We then cut to this shot, which when I first saw it made me laugh my fucking head off. No, please, I do not like my picture take. I can't do a German accent. No, do not take my picture. What the fuck? Cut to Charlotte. She hears a news report about Megan being missing and the multiple murders of young girls occurring in the city. Jade enters and Charlotte offers to talk to her, saying she saw Megan last and must know where she went. Jade says she didn't run away as Charlotte pleads with her to tell her where she is. The phone rings and Charlotte answers while Jade creeps out into the kitchen. She finds the key to the photographer's place and we cut to him shagging Charlotte. He pushes her off and she walks out as we cut to him looking in the mirror and hearing voices. He picks up the doll and whispers some more German sweet nothings before asking how to kill it.
I'm the bastard son of a goddamn whore. That's who I am.
Cut to even more driving and then to the photographer arriving at this place. Inside finding this blonde woman in a pretty bad mood.
Say something!
I'm hungry.
You make me sick.
Blonde, you might want to watch that tone, mate. This guy's a bit of a jerk. Who is this blonde lady? She's German as well, so what? Is this his wife from the motherland? The woman asks him in German if he still loves her, and he says he promised nothing. She calls him a liar, and he says it's time to move on.
Verschwind! Raus! Hau ab! Ich hab keinen Bock mehr, dich hier zu sehen. Raus! Verschwind!
Oh dear.
Geh! Geh! Ah!
Wer bist du? Wer bist du, hä? Wer gibt dir das Recht, mit mir zu reden, hä? Mich anzuspucken, hä?
The photographer snaps, throwing the woman up against the wall and shouting, asking her where was she when she was needed. He then turns and takes out his razor. Cut to the photographer approaching a baby crying in its cot and raising the blade before putting it down and picking the baby up to console it. The baby screams as we cut to the hall and the bubba runs out to find its mother dead. How the f do you film something like that without traumatizing the baby? The way it runs up to the actress playing the dead woman, I'm gonna assume that's its real mum. That kid definitely needed therapy. Nick Palumbo really does not give a single f. That being said, he should have eaten the baby. Cut to the photographer dreaming about 9/11 and his victims. What's the f***ing connection here? Am I just being dumb? Please, can somebody help me out with this one? Answers in the comments. He wakes up with a nosebleed and we cut to Jade at a gas station. She gets in this car and is soon joined by the driver who asks what she's doing. She says she needs help and he asks where her parents are. She tells him to drive, saying she's all alone, and he for some ridiculous reason agrees to this rather than immediately calling the cops. Cut to them arriving at the photographer's house where she gets out and the man says this.
I don't know what your problem is, but don't you ever hitchhike again.
I like to think that he's a serial killer as well, but Jade just doesn't fit his MO, so he lets her go. There's a shit artist with a mohawk covered in cum in his trunk. Cut to Jade entering the house. She creeps around, picking up a knife and looking around some more when we cut to the photographer starting up a chainsaw as a woman screams. He taunts her with it as Jade continues to search the house before shoving the spinning blades into her head. Cut to Jade finding Charlotte's shoes in the closet while the photographer hears a noise and turns the chainsaw off. Jade runs into the bedroom and hides as the photographer enters with his straight razor at the ready. He screams he's going to kill her as Jade creeps out of the room. Just quickly, I really like this moment. Yeah, it's most likely a massive Halloween ripoff, but I like it. She then goes down into the party basement. Smart move. Downstairs, Jade searches for Charlotte, finding the bodies of all the women we've seen the photographer kill over the course of the movie. She then finds this blood cupboard and climbs inside, discovering her sister. The photographer then enters the basement and begins to search for Jade. Just as he's about to look in the blood cupboard, Jade kicks the door open, knocking him to the ground. She tries to run, but the photographer catches her leg and starts to wildly slice her back open with the razor. She manages to get away again, but he quickly catches her and sits her on his work table before slicing a deep cut down her face. He then starts to choke her when Jade grabs a pair of scissors and shoves them into his guts. Jade then runs again and struggles to get the wooden beam locking the door free. The photographer pulls the scissors out of his stomach when Jade turns and smashes him in the face. He hits the deck and we flash back to his younger self finding the train track woman dead. And he finds the doll on her, which is confusing. Did he murder the woman? Did someone else murder the woman and leave the doll as a calling card which he then adopted? Was the woman his mother? Was it this trauma that turned him into a killer? What the f does this have to do with Nazis? Why is my dad so addicted to As usual, knows. Cut to Jade walking down a desert road covered in blood. Cut to a bus as we see the photographer is on board. He takes his seat and pulls down his hat to sleep as this woman gives him the look. The old I wanna know what his dick smells like look, if you know what I mean. Another girl makes cowboy jokes with him and the first woman finds this charming. She says he doesn't look like he's from around here and asks where he's headed. He says the City of Angels and that also happens to be where she's going to become an actress. He says something in German and when she asks what it means, he says she has a beautiful smile. He then says everyone starts out with a picture. She compliments his camera and poses as he takes the pic. The end! Well, that was f***ing epic. I cannot wait to see this guy's next film. Oh, I see. Well, at least there's Nutbag to look forward to. Murder Set Pieces is a film that really lives up to its title as one of the most controversial serial killer movies ever made. It seems that Nick Palumbo set out to make a film that pushes the boundaries of cinematic taboo, but the question is, did he also make a legit piece of art? I'm not so sure. The story is one we've seen many times before as we follow a serial killer who slowly begins to unravel. Normally in these types of stories, you'll see the acts of violence become more reckless and sadistic as time goes on, but in this film, the photographer pretty much starts at 11. He does start to break away from the normal relationships he has with Charlotte and the German woman, not to mention the killing of multiple kids, so you could say by the end he's lost what little control he did have. Until the bus scene where he seems completely back to normal, ready for an LA set sequel that unfortunately we will likely never see. The writer does in the middle of all the madness give us hints at what made the photographer the way he is, but as I said, it's kind of confusing. And the whole Nazi thing just comes off as random too. Him being exposed to a naked dead woman as a child seems to be the reason the film gives for his obsession with sex and death, and it just seems like they went, oh, the actor's German, so let's throw Nazis in the mix as well. And the 9/11 dreams, what the fuck was going on there? At its core, the film feels like a very simple and familiar story with as much offensive material thrown on top to elicit as negative a response as possible from your average viewer. And to be fair to him, it worked. The characters reflect the story's simplicity by having about as much depth as a puddle. Jade is the child in peril and Charlotte is the adult who won't listen. We literally learn nothing about these characters over the course of the film other than the fact that Jade doesn't like the photographer and Charlotte does. Who are they? What are their likes, dislikes? Where the f are Jade's parents? All of these are details that could have enriched the characterization for our protagonists, but in the end I just don't know who they are. And then there are the wooden performances complete with strange pauses and awkward moments. Out of everyone, Charlotte is definitely the worst culprit, and the fact that no one seems to notice the photographer's strange behaviour other than Jade is hilarious, but with all that being said, I still kind of enjoy them. I suppose I enjoy bad acting, so that's not really a fair judgment. And then there's the violence. Hell, I'd love to know what the fake blood budget was on this movie. The violence, especially the sexual violence in this film, I found to be really disturbing. There's just so much blood, and each act is performed with such hatred, it's hard not to get a certain vibe, you know? I'm not going to say that the director actually hates women, because I don't know, but if I found out he did, I wouldn't be surprised. This does go back to the Nazi thing though, in that at times it just feels like the filmmaker was racking his brain trying to come up with as many moments that would upset people as he could. The kid killing, the sexual violence, the torture, it feels like they're pushing the limit for the sake of just that, not the story, not the characters. And also, when I think about it, the kills aren't really that creative, are they? We get a nail through the hand, the chainsaw, and a shitload of stabbings, but that's about it. I think some variation would have gone a long way into making this aspect more entertaining, but as it stands, it's just repulsive, which, as I've said, I suspect was the entire point. Presentation is an interesting one here, as I've got to say, it really does look like a movie made in the early 90s, but still, its look is what makes it such a weird anomaly for me. Films this violent never looked this competent, so it's a nice change from the usual shot for the price of a ham sandwich visuals. I like the fact that it's shot on film and it has that lovely grain to it, but this is another one of the aspects that kind of reminded me of The Room. It looks like it has money behind it, it's just missing a good filmmaker. All in all, I'm very conflicted about Murder Set Pieces. It's a film that seems to be solely out to shock you and not much else. I was impressed by how far the film went with the killings and really do love its look, but with paper-thin characters and soap opera performances, in the end, the shock is all you're really left with. It's basically murder porn, and personally, I wanted something more. A few rewrites and some additional substance could have made this film an instant classic, but in the end, Murder Set Pieces is simply fine. Oh, and I'll just say again, he should have eaten the baby. So that was my review for Murder Set Pieces. What do you lot think? It truly is everything that I ever could have wanted it to be. And congratulations on having the bloodiest kills I have ever seen in my entire life. Speaking of which, if you want to see the photographer decimate half the female population of Las Vegas completely uncut and early, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. There you can find the uncut version of this review plus others with more stuff dropping all the time. We got the uncut reviews, Patreon exclusive reviews, Slasher comic breakdowns, commentaries coming soon, the Discord and the podcast coming soon. And all that could be yours for as little as $1 a month. You can pledge more, I really appreciate it, as I want a blood freezer. He's got a blood freezer. I want a blood freezer. So that's it for another week. Like the video, leave a comment and click subscribe if you haven't already. My name's Jonjo Lyons, and if you're ever out and about and this good looking German guy comes up to you with a camera saying he wants to take pictures of you in his basement, do it. You'll be fine.